today we hear text and word of God from John 10, the Gospel of John, chapter 10, 1 through 10. And it is often known as the passages of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. And we hear about the point of how good shepherds bring life to people, and particularly through Jesus, and how those who avoid Jesus are dangerous to the flock. So we hear Jesus say, "I tell you for certain that only thieves and robbers climb over the fence instead of going in through the gates to the sheep pen. But the gatekeeper opens the gate for the shepherd, and he goes through it. The sheep know their shepherd's voice. He calls each of them by name and leads them out. When he has let out all of his sheep, he walks in front of them, and they follow because they know his voice. The sheep will not follow strangers because they do not recognize the stranger's voice, and they'll run away." Jesus told the people this story, but they did not understand what he was trying to say. So Jesus said, "I tell you for certain that I am the gate for the sheep. Everyone who came before me was a thief or a robber, and the sheep did not listen to any of them. I am the gate. All who come through me will be saved. Through me they will come and go and find pasture. A thief only comes to rob, kill, and destroy. I came so that everyone would have life and have it in its fullest." This is the gospel of the Lord. So, Good Shepherd Sunday. I told you last year that this is one of my most favorite thematic Sundays of the year. I really love the imagery here of shepherds and sheep, and just it provides sort of tender and caring imagery that just can't be beat. But I started really thinking about shepherds, and that I really don't know much about them, and started to dig into the text a little bit more. And so today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the aspect of sheep and what sheep might be all about, and maybe you can draw some parallels between the people of God and flocks of sheep. But then it'll point really to hopefully help us more deeply understand the relationship that we have with Jesus, who in the text today did not call himself a shepherd, but he points to himself in the great I am statement as, "I am the gate." Not even the gatekeeper, the gate. We'll hopefully get some understanding about that. But then he comes and he ends today's text with the beautiful passage, "I came so that they might have life and have it abundantly," or in the fullest. And we will really gain, hopefully, this understanding of what it means as God's people to really live as God's people. Sheepfolds. There were no actual gates. The sheep kind of pens in the time of Jesus were not much more than low walls built of dirt and stone, maybe branches and sticks. They weren't anything like the modern pens you see today with fencing and electricity, perhaps even. The things that the ranchers today build are pretty state of the art comparatively. But all of those things are very helpful in protecting sheep from wandering into danger. Now, what do you know about sheep? Anything?
Yeah, they're stupid. There's not
That's the rumor. That's what we'll get at that.
No, it's true. If there's not somebody there to lead them, they just wander off. Wander asleep. They're out there.
We'll check on that, because I used to think that too until I did some more research recently. The other thing I heard recently was sheep, they're tasty, but that's, not something everybody else said that.
We use their...
They are.
So, Their lanolin, the wool oil, is also highly coveted, and people really like that. Well, sheep do tend to flock together. They, like to stay in bunches, like to be with, if you will, their own kind. What does that sound like? Sheep also are very good at following. And this is one of the things that I think maybe makes them not so dumb. They're really good at following the voice of their leader, their shepherd. And while they tend to flock together, when one starts moving, or a leader starts going, as being the leader, the sheep will go. Which, oftentimes, people don't do that. So whether you call that smart or independent, I don't know, but that's who and what sheep do. There's also some proofing that sheep, done by a University of Illinois study, that shows that sheep are just below pigs and equal with cows in the intelligence level. And that's pretty high up there. They're not necessarily equivalent with humans, but they're pretty smart. They recognize their name when their name is called in most cases, and they certainly recognize the voice of their individual shepherd. There was even one cool story about how a group of sheep somewhere in England were problem solvers, that they learned the rhythm of rolling on their backs over the cattle crates to get out of their pen. Now you might call that stupid, but they went and got out of their own pen. So sheep are sort of interesting creatures, and I think we can really see that if we mirror sheep and the flock of God. People are interesting creatures. People here at Grace Lutheran are interesting people. We're people of different backgrounds and different sizes and shapes and interests and all kinds of things, and we come together, but stand together in a flock, working to care for each other, protect each other, and mind each other. And in some cases, follow each other and do what we can to make a difference in the world. Now, the important part of a flock too is the shepherd. And I alluded to earlier in the text that Jesus does not call himself at this part of John the shepherd. He says, I am the gate. Now, it also said right in the middle of the story that he told this story to people who should have understood it, but they didn't quite get it, so he repeated, I am the gate. And they should have recognized that in their own time, in these low walls of the sheep pens, that the shepherds would lay themselves down in the doorway of the pen. And they themselves would become a living human door or gate for the sheep. The sheep would not go out because they sensed the human presence, the blocking of the door. Sheep are kind of depth perception challenged. But the shepherds would also then sense any danger that came the way of trying to enter the sheepfold. Jesus also alludes to the fact that there are many dangers for the sheep in the time, that there are thieves and bandits and wolfish marauders that try to pick off the sheep one by one for their own purposes, for their own gains, not to care for the sheep, but to split them apart. So we learn a lot about when we gather as the flock of God, perhaps, that safety in numbers, if you will, is an important thing. It's the opportunity to stand together, to claim our belief, our hope in God, to build each other up, to strengthen each other as we come together. That flock mentality being very, very helpful. But we also have the image of just exactly who Jesus is for us as the shepherd gate. Lays his life down his very life down for the sheep, lays his life down for us. And we celebrated that, of course, on Easter, and this being the fourth Sunday of Easter, we can again know that we are Easter people. People of the resurrection that are loved and protected, kept safe, kept healthy and whole, out of danger by Jesus, the shepherd. Now, Jesus does not say we will never run into danger or that we will never face troubles in our lives. But he does promise that he will always be with us. One of the other fine pieces of text that we get this week is something to me that's powerful. Jesus ends with that picture of, I came to give life and give it abundantly. And while he promises that, I think there's a big difference in the abundant life that Jesus promises and the quest we all seek as human beings, and what those two things look like. I think the best vision that we have of life in abundance comes from Psalm 23. It's probably a timeless, classic summary of our deepest desires as humans. It's beautiful and tranquil resting places where spirits are revived, sure paths and a clear sense of direction, purpose, security even in the face of the powers of death. A table always laden with sumptuous food and a cup that never runs empty. Goodness and love surrounding us, even more than that, following us, hunting us down all our days, being forever enfolded in the loving presence of God. Ask anyone, well, I'll ask you, what sort of life they long for. Do your answers echo some things like in that list? I have come that you have life and have it abundantly. We're often more inclined to grasp for things for ourselves rather than the fullness of life experience that Jesus comes for all people. I listen sometimes to talk radio, and you'll hear someone propose perhaps an increase in immigration, and the lines get flooded with callers talking about putting our life, our environment, our welfare at risk. But you probably won't hear one caller point out that our environment is actually part of a single global environment, and it's not possible to protect our environment by confining overpopulation to the other side of the borderline. God comes so that we have life in abundance, and it's beyond just our individual selves. It's life for all. Abundant life is not just what we have. It's not just about what we get. It's not about what we claim. Ultimately, abundant life is about what we receive as a gift from God and all that we have, and the stewards of the blessing of God. At the end of the day, perhaps it's how we know that we have an abundant life. That when we have shared life with others, we have enough of the blessings of God, such as mercy and peace, love and grace and wisdom, that we have to share with others and actually do it, then we know that we've had life in abundance. Jesus came that the flock might have life in all abundance. All of us. One of the biggest obstacles to the fulfillment of that life is our desire to hoard it for our family, our community, our country. And sometimes that greed is the basic operating principle of our entire economic system, trampling over the basic means of life for millions of other people. Sometimes we collapse under the weight of anxiety and depression and the social consequences of that community fabric disintegrating. But as long as that lust for power or greed holds sway, the true abundant life might be a dangerous and subversive quest. So it's all the more important that those who enter by the gate this morning, who come here to worship, who did not just to worship the one who did not just speak nice words of justice and peace, but someone who said, "I have come that you might have life to the full," and stood in firm opposition to the horrific things that stood in the way of that quest. We come to encounter the one who not only faced those horrors, but gave new meaning to it and propped the door open to real life. We gather to worship that risen one who is the guarantee that life wins, that the power of death does not have the last word. We gather around this table today, not pretending that the world is all sweetness and light, that sin and death and war are no more, but we gather in faith that life will have the last word. And we gather in our woundedness to share in the medicine of life given to us by the one who is opening to us life in all its abundance. Jesus Christ is not an exclusive gate. The family of God is not a tree house with a trap door designed to keep people out and accessible only by a secret passcode. Jesus is the gate of invitation to enter and to experience a relationship with God and a relationship to God's family, and then go out to share the abundance of that life to all people. Amen.
Amen.